Good people. It's Jay Myrax of ultrawest.com. Um, Happy New Year to everybody. I haven't said Happy New Year to y'all, so I wanted to give y'all a Happy New Year to start off. Thank you once again for joining me on this impromptu producer function. So let's get it in. You know, man, it's a lot to talk about. But I hope everybody out there is, safe, healthy. I hope everybody is having a great New Year so far. So much that we can talk about. But I'm just always testing out a new format, trying to test out a new setup. So thank you for everyone that's joining me. If you have any issues hearing the audio, please let me know. But yeah, I want to get it in and really talk about. I get this question a lot on my YouTube channel, and it has a lot to do with this topic of audio interfaces. So I want to discuss that a bit more. Discuss the importance of having a multi-channel audio interface, especially like a multi-output audio interface, because I think that's a super important thing to have in a hybrid studio, in a modern hybrid studio. I think there's a lot of people that I would say maybe consider me to be more of like an analog guy. But I really consider myself to be a bit more of a hybrid type of person. I got a little delay. I appreciate you letting me know. Like I said, it's a new setup. We'll try to work that out. But I appreciate y'all hanging with me so we can just kind of get into the topic. But I'm not really. I would say I'm not really a analog type of guy. Not purely. I think analog is part of the history. It's part of the legacy of audio production. But I would say that I'm not strictly analog. I think that being strictly any type of thing at this point in the audio domain actually is like. It doesn't serve you in the end. I think it actually places you behind the curve if you're talking about all the things that are available today. I think there's so many great tools available, and I'm checking the stream on both of these devices just to make sure. So don't mind that I'm looking at my phone right now, but yeah, like I think the idea of just having a DAW-less environment, for example. I think for me, I don't really subscribe to the idea of like being DAW-less necessarily. I think DAW-less is kind of a concept. It's a means to an end, and I think for some people it's like a creative avenue. And I don't knock DAW-less. I don't knock people that are solely DAW based, because I understand that there's a lot of usefulness in going in either way. And I think for myself, what I find to be most beneficial is to actually operate in a hybrid manner. So not really championing one over the other, but just respecting that all of these things are tools, and all of these things can be leveraged to get an output that's desirable. I think that's the ultimate thing for me. It's like really looking at what you can use out here and just configuring your setup to optimize all the different tools that are available. So, I'm not going to be one that's strictly just using the MPC or just using the Maschine or just using the Force. Some of y'all, saw me, doing some little test runs on the Force and stuff. And I'm not strictly any of that, because they're all tools and they all have utility in a modern studio. And I like to try out different stuff. But I think that what I found to be most most useful in my setup is having a multi-channel audio interface. I think that is probably the key to being able to test out anything. Just really being able to say, okay, look, I like to try all this stuff, but how do I make it where all of this stuff communicates with each other? So I think that's what I want to talk about today. I'm not necessarily going to make a track. We may end up with a track, but I think I just want to kind of talk about the concept because I get a lot of questions on this channel, especially about MPCs and how to connect the audio interface to an MPC and like what the best setup is for that. I think that that's going to vary. I think that's going to vary depending on a lot of factors, but I will just kind of show you some of my strategy and methodology around it so that you can get a better idea of maybe just some ideas you can use in your studio. For some of you guys, this will be like, you know, already know this, that's, you know, and that's fine if you already know this. If this is not the stream for you, that's all good. But I think it's an important thing in terms of just inspiration and kind of have maybe some different takes on how you could set it up. So I'm just gonna, you know, a lot of people will ask you, how can you show me how it's set up? And I'm not going to show you the wiring, but I'm going to talk about conceptually a bit more how this studio is set up and how flexible it is in this setup. So, you know, one of the keys for me, and you know, if you guys got questions, I'm looking at the chat. So, you know, what's up to everybody that's in the chat? If you got questions, I can see it on the screen here. So, you know, just let me know if you got any questions or if you want to ask something specific about what's going on. So, but yeah, the way this studio is set up, the audio interface is the centerpiece. You know, a lot of times we talk about like, you know, MPCs or machines or, you know, other kind of things that are kind of like more maybe arrangement slash sequencing slash, you know, other types of sampling tools that could be leveraged. And I think, at least for me, it's not so much about having like an MPC as the centerpiece. The audio interface is the centerpiece because that is what allows everything in the studio to communicate with my computer. And the computer actually, you know, to a degree is the centerpiece, but I would say without an audio interface, the computer would be irrelevant. So I think for me, the audio interface is really the thing that glues it all together. So I think that's an important thing. So what you're looking at right now, the reason I have this screen up and I'm not showing you like the hardware or the, you know, the full studio screen is because realistically what you're looking at right now is the centerpiece of the studio. This is where I control everything in the studio as far as audio and sound is concerned. So, you know, we're looking at the UAD console app right now on my screen. And, you know, you can kind of see just based on the configuration how I have, you see I got a little echo. Appreciate you letting me know that. Let me see where the echo is coming from. Probably my headphones. Appreciate that. Or it might be this phone. Either way, appreciate y'all letting me know. Like I said, this is a slightly new setup, so I'm trying to run a couple things at the same time. Hold on. I got you. Boom. Let's see. How about now? That sound better? Let me know if that's sounding better. I think I was getting a couple of different audio feeds here. So let me know if that sounds better, if I'm still getting the echo or if it's, if the delay or whatever we were talking about is over with so we can continue on. All good in the chat room. Let me know so I can keep going. What's up with you, Beats by Rossi? What's up with you, M. Jones? I appreciate y'all. So, okay, cool. All good. All right, good. it was a problem with the setup, the streaming setup. So I appreciate y'all. Cool. But yeah, so realistically, everything that I'm doing is running through this audio interface. So you can see by like some of the channel names, like I got a channel, like channel 1 and 2 on my audio interface is connected to actual hardware EQs. It's hooked up to the EQP warm audio. I've had that for a couple years. I'll turn them on now, actually. But yeah, I got channel 1 and 2 set up to receive the output. Do we still have the echo or not? So some of y'all said it's good. Some of y'all said it's I still got echo. Shouldn't have echo still. Let's see. Let me know. Milton Bow says I still got echo. Everybody else, do I still have echo? I know this is gonna be a rough stream for y'all, but it's a rough stream for me. I'm using a different setup just so I can kind of connect all of this. So that's a whole different topic, connecting all the video stuff. But obviously, those of y'all that stream know the struggle with that. Milton Bow. Okay, he late. Cool. Okay. Yeah, we done with that. All right. Yeah, that was my bad. So I think we fixed that now. All right, cool. No echo. Cool. Yeah, so what I was saying is channel 1 and 2 is attached to some EQs. Basically, the way that's set up is I have audio outputs of my interface connected to the EQ, so I can send something to the EQ, and then it returns on channel 1 and 2. So, for example, let me pull up something that could make sense. Like, so for example, this rack mount synth XV5050, right? So this is actually coming in through a digital channel. This is coming through on the digital inputs. So I can send this to, let's see, 1 and 2 is not connected, but 3 and 4 is my EQP. And they're not matched right now because I was running them separate or like on individual channels. But if I configure the EQs to be at the same levels, then it would come through with the exact same levels on both channels. But these are now running through the EQPs and back to the audio interface, right? So that's some flexibility. So if I want to add, let's see if I add a chord or something real quick. Let me just program something so I don't have to keep hitting it. Yes, it's a delay. We could deal with the delay though. All right. So let's see here. Okay, so I'll just record. I'm gonna just record a quick loop just so that we have something so we can kind of see how it's, where my audio output paths are. So. Let's do that again. That was a 2-bar. Cool. Do that again. Automation too. All right, good. On machine. All right, cool. All right, so that's running. And that's the little MIDI stuff. All right. So that was running through the EQP. So 3 and 4 is connected to my EQPs. 5 and 6 is actually connected to my mixer. I have a mixer on this side where I can kind of run some other stuff. So 5 and 6, if I send it to 5 and 6 now, it's actually going through a signal chain on my mixer. And my mixer actually is set up kind of interesting because I got a few different devices over here. Like my mixer over here is set up so I can send something really quickly to, say, my S300 or S3000 sampler. I also have a Zoom R8, for example. So right now what you're hearing is the audio from the Zoom R8. So like with the Zoom R8 right now, I have it going through like a, some type of clean setting, but we can change it to different mastering settings, for example. So let's turn that on. Boom. So yeah, that's definitely going through the Zoom R8 right now. Let me see if I can get to a more drastic setting. Try to go to, yeah. Or we can go, let's go to a new project actually. I think that's better on this Zoom R8. Let's go. File. No, let's go new. So we're just gonna do a new project on this because I think the settings on that weren't set up for y'all to hear that. Boom. Okay. Boom. Creating. All right. So then we can go back to effects now. There we go. So yeah, we're going through the Zoom R8 right now. Okay, yeah, 1, 3, and 4 here. So let's do it like this. Let's just do one channel. Boom. So it's going through a distortion right now. So yeah, that's going through the Zoom R8, or if I want to send it to another sampler, for example, I have the Force here. I can send it to the Force. Now this is going to the Force now, so in order for y'all to hear the Force is connected to my MPC main. This is like the channel 3 and 4. So I'll open up channel 3 and 4 on the Force now. So let's see, boom. Monitor, boom. So now you're hearing it through the Force. So, if I want to put like a filter or something on it. Let's see. So right now it's going through the Force. So like now you can hear how it's getting filtered through the Force. So I have several different paths that the audio can go to because each of the outputs is connected to one of the vital things that I want to be able to send audio to. And I think that's the important thing when we start talking about these audio interfaces is you want to be able to send stuff to different hardware. You don't want to just be sending only MIDI. You want to be able to send audio too. So that gives me some flexibility in what I can do and how I can process things. And I think that's why I've always recommended that producers have multi-channel or multi-output audio interfaces, actually, because I think that's really the key to having a good workflow in a modern hybrid studio, is being able to send and route stuff out to other hardware so that you can quickly capture the audio. Because like right now, if I want to go back, if we go back to the Force, because this sound is coming from my Roland X35050. If I want to go back to the Force, it's going back to the Force now, and I'm gonna sample it real quick just to show you guys. So let's see here. So we'll go to the sampler. Let me switch to the Force real quick so y'all can see. Boom. All right, so let's go. Boom, boom. Menu, sampler. So I'm just gonna capture that real quick. Boom, it's captured. I'll keep it. Yeah, we'll keep that. So now I got this sound off of the Roland X35050. It's in the Force now. So like if I go to the Force, let's see. And then we'll go to like a drum real quick. Boom. Let's exit that. Boom. So shift clip. No, we want edit clip. I'm still slow on the Force, y'all, so struggle with me for a second on the Force. But no, it's not that one. It's Matrix. Boom. Edit clip. Edit. Boom. There we go. So now the sample's in there on the Force. So I can edit it on the Force. So yeah, it's in the Force now. So if I want to manipulate that on the Force, I can manipulate that on the Force, and then I can send that audio. That audio is being sent back to my computer. So if I, want to trigger it and then add an effect to this on the Force, for example, let's see. So now I have an effect on the Force. So now it's got like a flanger on there, and that's going directly back to my computer. So then if I want to record that now back into Maschine, I can do that on the Maschine now. So, I'll mute this channel on Maschine, and then we'll go to sampler. Let's find what channel that's on the sampler. Actually, I'll send that to my mixer. That'll make it easier for me. All right, so now it's going. Now the Force is going through my mixer, and the reason I like routing it through the mixer is because it's a few things, but mainly I get to it makes it easier for me to just capture stuff on my machine, especially because I have a lot of audio signals that can come through the mixer, and then I can keep the channel consistent, which makes it easier for me. It makes it just quicker. So I'm on Maschine now. Let me pull up the Maschine software just so y'all can see what's going on here on that. So then I'll change the source to external, and then what channel is that on? We got 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3. So it's on channel 3 here, right? So it's on channel 3. So what's cool about this now, right? I'm coming from the Force, going to the audio interface. It's being routed to the mixer. If I want to do some EQ on the mixer or do something else on the mixer before it gets back into the Maschine, I can do that. I'm not going to do that right now, but it is going through the mixer and then back into Maschine. So if I want to capture that on Maschine, I will just do that, and boom, It's being captured, right? So now I got that. Now I just captured it in Maschine. Right? So that's why I preach this whole multi-channel audio interface thing, because the routing capabilities, just being able to route things to a whole bunch of different places in your studio is very important. You know, we talk about MIDI a lot, and MIDI definitely allows you to connect a lot of different things in your studio, but I think realistically, the audio interface is just as important as having a MIDI interface or some type of MIDI device that kind of captures everything as well. So that's where I'm at with it. That's why I've been preaching that, because I think that a lot of times, especially for me, I'm not like heavily sample based. I think samples are kind of a means to an end for me, but I think especially within a very sample heavy studio, you want to have multi output, and you want to have your stuff connected where you can go wherever you want to the studio and route things to whatever device you have in your studio. For me, that's a critical part of the workflow. It creates another opportunity for me to be able to affect the sounds the way I like, or sample anything that I have in my studio. So sometimes you don't want to play stuff as MIDI. Sometimes you just want to get the audio quickly. So being able to route all these things makes a big difference for me. So let's see. Calvin Rodriguez says, I run Studio One with Tascam Model 12 for these reasons. Yeah, that's another great device that allows you to do some awesome routing. For me, it's been the console app with UAD. So, I mean, if you're an Apollo user, obviously that's the way to go. I don't have a specific audio interface that I recommend. I think that there's a lot of different options out there. I'm a big fan of what RME does. I'm a fan of what I do like some of what Apogee does, but I think Apogee doesn't have as comprehensive of a routing matrix on the software. And I think the software part is important. I think the software part is really what makes it more convenient for me. I mean, I like tactile stuff as well, but I think certain things are just a bit easier to accomplish for me, at least on the software. So that's why I said I try to use all the tools. I'm not one that wants to just limit myself to like, I got to do this all analog or this got to be all digital, because you want the option to be able to do everything. Ideally in a hybrid setup. So I wanted to capture that because I had this question come up about which audio interface, and you know, we still talking about 2-channel audio interfaces, and I cannot stress enough, like 2-channel audio interfaces in a modern setup is difficult. It's difficult to justify in a modern setup, because I think in a modern setup we kind of are able to embrace both the analog domain and the digital domain. And I think this whole concept of having all of these things separated somehow doesn't make sense anymore. I think if you want to use something in the analog domain, you should just use it. And the audio interface is the key to doing that. So this whole 2-channel concept is not it. It's too limiting, because I think what a 2-channel interface, you end up needing to use a analog mixer still. I'm not saying that you can't run these setups with a 2-channel mixer, but a 2-channel audio interface, but a 2-channel audio interface, especially if you're buying an MPC or something like that, it just makes it way more complex. So even if you had, say, like a 2-channel audio interface, you're still going to need some type of multi-channel mixer that has some type of send return setup, because then at least you can run You can run the MPC into the hardware mixer, and then use the send returns to send to your audio interface or send to your sampler and whatnot. Like that is also an option. But I think nowadays, especially if you're going to be running a DAW, it only makes sense to have, like I said, at minimum a 4-out interface. But I think if you can spring for something that has more outputs, the outputs are kind of like the key. Inputs, I think, depending on how you like to record, inputs can be a requirement as well, especially like if you want to record simultaneously. But I think ultimately the outputs are what enable the flexibility to be able to get the audio to the places you need to get it to. Willy Wonka says, got the Force last week. It's cool, but being that I'm coming from an iPad with plenty of apps, I don't see anything I couldn't already do on the Force that I couldn't already do with the iPad. I tend to agree with you on that. I tend to agree with you because I think here's my thoughts about the Force. Sorry about the noise. Hold on 1 second. I tend to agree with you. Hello to Carlo from France. I tend to agree because the Force to me it's kind of the same thing as the iPad. Here's the benefit of the Force, in my opinion. I think the benefit of the Force is that, with the iPad, let me get my iPad here. All right. So, and I don't even think this is powered up right now. No, I don't have any power right now. But the thing about the iPad, just form factor wise, is that it's great because it's portable. But the problem is this thing right here. This is what kills it for a lot of people, is this, and having to connect everything through this. I think because we're dealing with Apple and they don't have a full set of I/O, it becomes challenging for people that don't want to deal with all these different adapters. And I think the Force solves that problem because it has the audio interface connected to it already, right? So it has the 2 input, 6 output audio interface, plus it has the USB ports on it, plus it has the SD card reader. That's the benefit of it if you want to compare it to an iPad. But I would tend to agree with you in terms of like what you get access to software wise, and what you get access to sound wise even is not anything different or unique to the Force. I think you could do a lot of that same stuff on the iPad with, say, Beatmaker and AUM and Chord Gadget, for example. I think that setup is very similar to what you get with the Force at this point. And one could argue that it's probably even cheaper than the Force, especially where the Force pricing is now. I think the Force was like cheap for a second. Like they kind of, gave people an opportunity to get on the ship, and then that ship has left again. So it's definitely over $1,000 now. But I think the iPad offers a lot of the same thing as the Force. But I'm not trying to tell anyone either way to get a Force or not. And I think, my last video that had the Force in it wasn't necessarily trying to get you guys to get a Force or anything like that. It was more about like really just looking at, what I'm doing on the Force, and, just wanted to share some of the creative stuff I'm experimenting with. Cause I think that's a big part of this channel, is just really experimenting, really showing some experiments and, some results that I get from said experiments. So, that's what I try to share with the community. But I think Obviously, if you use an iPad and are happy with it, I think that's probably just as good as a Force. I think the iPad is more of a modular concept, and then the Force is kind of like, all in one standalone concept. Dope Snare, what's going on? Thanks for coming through. Yeah, we're just talking about audio interface. I'm not sure, what kind of audio interface you guys are messing with here. If you guys feel like it, let me know what audio interfaces you guys are dealing with in the chat. I'd love to know a bit more about like what kind of audio interfaces you guys are dealing with, and if you guys are having issues or troubles, or if you guys have any questions about like, how I'm running stuff in there, or if you need recommendations on how you could better optimize what you're doing, as far as like studio routing. I'd be happy to talk about that right now, but I just want to kind of get on. First of all, I'm testing a streaming setup, but I'm also just also feel like sharing. I hadn't shared in a while, and it was a good time. So yeah, just let me know. I'm happy to help here. I think I can probably show. Let me see if I got some other stuff that kind of using some of these techniques. Yeah, I mean, I could play this. This is just kind of like an idea here that uses that. I'm not going to keep that sample I just took. I don't need it. Let's see. Dope Snare says UR44. So I'm assuming that's 4 in, 4 out. 5-star Studio says Roland MX1. That's the Aria mixer. I'm not sure which one is that, and I gotta look into that. But that sounds interesting. Let's see. Yeah, I think like this one, this track here probably uses some of these concepts I was just discussed. No, not this one actually. Let me pull up. That was not the right one. Any other audio interfaces? Drop your audio interface in the chat if you feel like participating. Yeah, I think this one is a good one. XR18, that's the Behringer joint, I'm assuming. Let's see here. Yeah, like, let's see. Hit creator. What's going on, fam? That's another YouTube OG right here. Hit Creator Music. What's going on with you, fam? I just bought a PreSonus Studio Live 32SX mixing console. It's nice. Lots of routing options. I bet. That's dope. You leveled up on your stuff. Yeah, shout out to Hit Creator Music. Like I said, another YouTube OG. Been around for a long time. Definitely been following his stuff for a cool minute. So good to have you in the chat. Appreciate you, my guy. 5-star Studio says MX1 has 4 Aria USB ports and 4 mono analog ports. That's dope. Dope Snare says 6 in, 4 out plus main. Yep, that makes sense. Let's see here. Calvin Rodriguez says, what are your thoughts on choosing audio interfaces based on audio quality? Is that a major concern for you, or do you think the differences are mostly unnoticeable? Let's see. That's a good question. I think at a certain price point, it's very similar. I'll say it like that. I think those different tiers of pricing kind of allude to similar technology, similar specification. So I think that it does matter. Like the audio quality does matter, but I think, say you're spending sub $500, most of it's going to be around the same. Most of the quality is going to be around the same. I think you can spend a lot of money on higher end converters. Um, I think there's some brands that kind of offer higher end conversion for cheaper prices. So, for example, some brands like RME or Antelope kind of are pointing more towards the higher end conversion at a cheaper price point, because I think they're not offering some of this other stuff that some of these other brands like UAD are trying to offer. Even though even the Antelope and Army are now kind of doing some DSP stuff. They're not trying to sell you this like DSP system where you get access to like this store of all these different analog emulations. That's not the model of like RME or Antelope. But like I said, I think within certain price points, you kind of get a certain level of audio quality. Do you need to spend thousands of dollars to get good audio quality? I think it depends on what you're doing. I think a lot of us are like, producers, songwriters, not necessarily doing mastering professionally. I think if you're doing mastering professionally, you probably want to invest in the highest conversion that you could possibly get, just to widen the scope of who you could service as a mastering person. I think as a producer, songwriter type, producer, beat maker type, producer, composer type, I think a lot of these mid range options are just fine. I think that none of them are going to help you make better music. None of them are going to help you to write better songs. None of them are going to help you to produce better records. I think conversion matters, but it doesn't matter at the same time, because what good is it to convert something that, what good is high end conversion if it doesn't, if it's not matched with a great song, right? So I think to answer your question, yes, the conversion does matter, but it really matters based on what you're doing and what your main focus is. I think if your main focus is writing, it matters less, because you can spend all that money and still not have anything that is interesting for people as far as music is concerned. Let's see. Zach M says the Motu M4. How do you like that one? I was a big Motu guy for a long time. Had the Motu 828 and definitely enjoyed that. That was kind of like my first good audio interface that had it wasn't my first good audio interface, but it was my first audio interface that had a pretty solid driver. I would say that, because I've been doing this long. So like at this point, I've run through like kind of all the different audio interface companies and the drivers associated with that. And I've had some horrible experiences with drivers in the past. I think that, I think that Motu had a very solid driver for the time that I got it. The 828 MK, I think it was the MK3 that I had. That was very solid. But prior to that, I was using like I had the Apogee Duet before that, and then prior to that, I had the Digi 003. Those of y'all that remember the Digi design days remember the headache of the Avid Digi Design drivers and the inflexibility of those drivers, not being able to really not being able to run multiple software titles at the same time. That was a big thing. Like the Digi Design stuff back in the day could only run one application at a time. So like right now, for example, you see I got Maschine on my screen, but I also got Logic up. So if I want to pull up a Logic session, I can pull up a Logic session and be cool. I could not do that on the Digi Design. The Digi Design was like, oh, this driver is being used right now. So yeah, good luck with that. If you want to use something different, then you need to close out Pro Tools or close out whatever application. So even if you had like a browser open or something like that, and the browser took the audio driver, it completely it requires you to completely exit out of everything, and you couldn't run multiple applications at the same time. So like right now I can run, I can run Logic. So I got this Logic session. But then I can also run the Maschine at the same time. So yeah, I mean, that right there, like being able to have that flexibility of being able to run, not that I want to run two sessions, two separate sessions. That was an example of running like two separate sessions. But there are cases where obviously you may want to run, Maschine and Logic at the same time, and that just was not happening with that old stuff. So I mean, like, that's why I've been talking about audio interfaces for a while, because I've definitely had my share of like bad experiences with audio interfaces, and I hate to see people struggle with audio interfaces, because it can stop you from being it can stop you from being creative. Calvin Rodriguez said, "Run it." Yeah, this was something I made using kind of some of those concepts. It's just so the way this track started, actually, I started out with I had this Rhodes. I was actually playing the Rhodes, and I was running it through my Zoom R8, and I ran that into Maschine. So I had this. And it's got some effects that I ran from the Zoom R8. So it's just an audio track. It's now looped in Maschine as like an audio loop. So then, the rest of the stuff is kind of in Maschine. Bass in Maschine. That's a Maschine bass synth. And it's got some other sounds from other modules or other synthesizers. And that's some guitars that I ran through the Zoom R8. So yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff, like that's what allows me to like kind of get into those creative zones, just being able to run different audio applications at the same time, but also being able to route the audio anywhere in the studio to anything else that I want to like process or play with sonically. So that's why I talk about this stuff, because I think that's the missing link that I think stops a lot of people from getting creative, is not having the audio configured in a way where it really allows you to like get the maximum flexibility in the studio. I think we got a lot of stuff that kind of could talk to each other in multiple ways. Like, of course, MIDI is one form of communication, but then audio is another form of communication. And I think we have to think smartly about the way that we kind of configure our audio. Dope Snare says, "Are you leaking a new expansion on the low?" Oh no, bro. No. I actually, hold on one second. I'm getting some weird distortion here. Hold on. I actually don't work on Maschine expansions anymore. Yeah, I actually don't work on machine expansions anymore. I haven't worked on machine expansions for like 4 years. Um, yeah, so no, I'm not leaking. This is just my own stuff. This, my own sound design and whatnot. Um, Calvin Rodriguez says, "Do you encounter chances for more RF interference with these setups?" Of course. RF interference is always a topic with, especially with a lot of audio routing and cables and whatnot. I think to minimize your RF interference, um, DIs, um, XLR, that's going to be your friend. I run a lot more XLR for long runs. So like I have a pretty long run that's coming from this mixer that's over here that's going to the audio interface here. So that's a pretty long run. But that's XLR. You wouldn't want to run like a TRS or TRS is balanced, but I still prefer, as far as like audio interference or RF interference is concerned, um, you want to try to use DI. So you want to have XLR coming out of the interface. So I would say invest in some DI boxes. I have several DI boxes that allow me to get that XLR connectivity. I think that's an important way to like mitigate so that you don't have a gang of noise. Like some instruments are just noisy inherently, but I think you can mitigate that with the types of connections and the types of cabling that you use. I think that's a big part of it. It's more expensive, obviously, to go XLR over, say, a TS cable, but it makes a big difference. TS cables tend to just be noisy. They just don't have the mechanism to shield off the unnecessary frequencies. That's just the nature of how it's set up. So XLR, TRS cables definitely help. I try to keep it to a lot of like I said, longer runs will be XLR. If it's like a short or medium run, I can deal with TRS cables in some cases. And I'm not super high end over here. I don't have everything. Everything's not like Megami XLR cables. Like I definitely got some TS cables here. Actually, my Zoom R8 is set up with a with TS cables. It's a very short run, but not everything is that way. So I think obviously you have opportunities for interference with that. But yeah, that's a great question actually. Like DI boxes, right now, like I have several DI boxes. One of them that I'm running is I have a Neve DI box that's kind of like one of my main routes. Like the long route that I just described is running on it's on a Neve stereo DI box. And yeah, I think it gets good results. I'm happy with it. I mean, obviously, being a Neve kind of has some other implications. I don't necessarily care so much about some of that Neve stuff. I wanted to try it out, and if I've gotten good results, but also I have radial DI boxes in here as well, and those radios run fine. I think radio is good. You don't have to spend $300 on a Countryman DI or anything like that if you don't want to. I think radio is perfectly good, and I think will work in most cases. So that's what I use to kind of help with this whole like noise issue or the RF interference. See, Zach M said I missed what you said here. Um, Zach M was talking about trying to score a used SSL6. Yeah, those look interesting. Those SSLs definitely is like that's a nice little come up that SSL has provided at that mid range level. So it'd be interesting. I'd be interested to hear a lot of you guys' experiences with that because I think it's gonna provide some interesting possibilities out here. Dope Snare, I missed your question here. You said, question for you, high-end interface with only two inputs or um, entry mid-level interface with more IO. Um, yeah, I think I kind of answered that. I would say, high end. I don't know what your, I think high end is a perceptual term. So I think really we got to talk about budget. Let's not talk high end, because like high end for some people might be an Apogee Duet, right? And I think that's not necessarily high end. I think that is probably a higher cost two channel interface. Of course, it has the Apogee name, so Apogee, has alludes to a higher end conversion, but you know, it's not a burl. It's not a metric halo. You know what I'm saying? So there's different levels of audio interfaces or converters that you can get. So I think let's just talk, instead of talking high end versus like mid range and all that stuff. I think we just got to be fair about like what's your budget? What are you trying to spend? So then we can look at kind of what your options are and the pros and cons of that, as opposed to like high end versus low end and all that stuff, right? So, um, I think I always will recommend at least four outputs on an audio interface. I don't like this concept of two out, because if you only got two out, it's too limited. I can't deal with it personally. I think in today's market, like I said, we're dealing with hybrid studios. I don't see any good reason for you to mess with something that only has two channels at this point. And trust me, I've been there. I've done that before. It's not the ideal way to work with audio at this point in time. I think back in the day, for me, I mess with the Apogee Duet. You can see some old videos of me messing with the Apogee Duet. I've also had the inbox, like all that stuff was kind of cool just to get audio, but I still had analog mixer in those setups, and I was kind of doing all the analog auxiliary send routing and stuff with the two channel audio interfaces. So basically all my hardware and stuff was running to the analog mixer, and then also my speakers were being usually I would monitor my I will put my monitor speakers on the main outputs of the mixer, so that I didn't have latency from any of the hardware. And then if I wanted to run something to the computer, I would go auxiliary send out of the analog mixer to the audio interface, and then the output of the audio interface would be on its own separate channels on the mixer as well. Pros and cons to that: it's tactile. You can, route stuff how you want to. I think the con is that it can be a bit more noisy compared to just running directly to audio interface. Honestly, though, I think that we're in a funny place right now, because a lot of companies that do software especially are selling these tools to help you dirty up sounds and stuff now. And it's like funny to me, because the initial draw of getting into like this computer digital audio interface domain was like having clean audio recordings and being able to like manage stuff better. But I think it's funny how now we're in a place where people are buying software to like dirty stuff up, versus like you could dirty things up with analog mixers for cheap. You didn't necessarily need RC20 or something like that, or even some of the old, like I said, some of the old digital recorders we used to have. Those were dirty, but had effects and things that you could use to like, get a different tone or different sound. And like, I think we kind of got bullied out of that to a degree. What's good with you, Hanik 1215? Chicago in the house. He said, "What's up? I appreciate you joining me." Tariq Ali, what's going on with you, fam? Thanks for dropping by. Tariq Ali, that's one of my bros. Tariq Ali saved my life one time, man. That's a true story. Saved my life one time, man. I was out in Vegas for a concert, and we was hanging out. Me, Tariq Ali, and our wives, and we was in Vegas. I think he was in. I think they were living in Vegas at that time, and we were at a concert, and I got food poisoning for some reason. I don't know what it was. It might have been sunstroke. I don't know what it was, but I started I was just throwing up like crazy. It was crazy. I got so sick, and he drove me to the hospital, man. Like, well, I was staying over his spot in Vegas. So at first I was like, let me just try to rough it out, and it got bad. So, drove me to the hospital and got me right. So yeah, that was a crazy situation. So I appreciate you, man. Much love to you, my bro, for sure. Yeah, that was a expensive night in Vegas. I'll say that much. Let's see here. Calvin Rodriguez says, looking at your setup brings a question to mind. Should beat makers, writers concentrate mainly on their tools or room treatment like traps, diffusion, etc.? I don't think I don't think there's like a one solid answer to that. I always say it depends on what you are doing in your studio. I think if you do a lot of recording with microphones, especially, you want to tighten your room up. I think that's important. Having a tight room will help you to get a better sound. But I think there's caveats to that as well. I mean, some people have rooms that have nice reflections in them, but I would say most people don't. So I think you want to try to tighten up your sound. But even with like recording vocals, for example, there's ways to obviously reduce the amount of the room that's getting into your recording. I think your microphone choice is going to have a greater impact on how much of the room you get. I think that's why in recent years you've seen a lot of people get these SM7Bs, for example, because at one point we the music producer and songwriter community learned about the condenser microphone, and everybody wanted to have the condenser microphone. So then you had people running to get you had the entry level condenser microphones like the Rhodes and the Audio Technicas, and then people started to find out about Neumann and all that other stuff, and they were like, okay, I need to get the Neumann. And then what you found out with that was, the higher end microphones pick up more, and because they pick up more, they can kind of expose imperfections in your room. So like a lot of those high-end condenser microphones weren't being served in a standard room environment that people recording in their houses, their homes, and their apartments and whatnot. It just it didn't. They weren't being served by that space in that room, because essentially the room was overpowering the actual source input, the human or whatever else you're recording with that microphone, right? So I think after a while, people started to learn about the SM7B specifically, because you get a higher, it's a larger diaphragm, but you're not dealing with the issues that you have with a condenser, because the condenser is picking up so much of the room. And I think with the 7B, you've got like a very limited area that it actually picks up. So, you know, if I get off axis, you get less of the sound versus when I'm on axis, which automatically means that it's just going to be a nicer, more upfront sound than a lot of the condenser microphones. So I think that's kind of speaking to your. I know I haven't fully answered it yet, but I'm speaking to the idea that the tools do matter, but it depends on what you're doing. The treatment does matter, but it depends on what you're doing. So I think, like I said, if you're recording vocals, for example, you could probably get away with just buying the right physical hardware equipment. You know, you see a lot of people that have those reflection filters. I have one. I've had it for years. That was kind of like the first thing that we kind of started to use to solve some of the room issues. And you know, I recorded a lot of artists with the reflection filter. So the reflection filter is kind of like you know, it's just like contraption that goes on your microphone that you see in a lot of studios, where it kind of covers the back of the microphone, and it gives you kind of the feel of not having so much of the room as part of the recording. And those work fine, but I think they if you don't set it up right, they can sound bad as well. So it's not like I don't think it's a perfect fix. Like I said, I think moving away from the condensers kind of are a better option in a room that's not fully treated, I would say. Tariq Ali said, am I using the cloud lifter? Yes, I am using the cloud lifter for it. So that's an important part of it, is using the cloud lifter to get so that it matches and you get the right amount of gain from it, because otherwise it will be very low. That cloud lifter allows you to get more gain. It creates the opportunity for you to be able to use phantom power, and that gives you a little bit more gain and a little bit more level in this situation. I think, kind of digging into your question a bit more, Calvin, for like if you mix, for example, if you mix, you want to tighten your room up if you're going to mix with monitors. Like if you're going to mix with monitor speakers, it's important to have a tight room so that you can be assured of what you're hearing in the space that you're listening in. I think that without a tight room, the monitors can give you varied results. Honestly though, where I'm at, just where I'm at in terms of like my understanding of audio a bit more now, and just my understanding of how to get stuff, or at least my understanding of what I understand translates. I actually feel a lot more confident with headphones now. I think there's a lot of conversation about like why you shouldn't use headphones for mixing and this and that. I think some of it is true with respect to like stereo imaging and problems with stereo imaging, especially with like closed back headphones like the ones I'm wearing. So I think it can be challenging because you're not getting like a legitimate stereo image because there's no air coming through. So I think that challenges like the perception of like where things are in the stereo field. But I think ultimately for me, I can still get a good gauge of frequencies from headphones. And I think especially with these headphones, and I've been using these headphones now for over a decade. I feel really confident with these headphones because I like the way that they translate to other environments. I think that for me personally, these translate very well. Like if I do something in these headphones, they tend to have good parity with like the Apple earbuds, for example. I think, you know, the way that I look at this stuff is If you're making music, if you're making recordings, the the canvas that you're working on is actually the speaker. If you're doing like recording arts, if you make music, like music in general, the canvas is time and pitch, right? Like, so what you do with pitches across time is kind of like the canvas for music. But when we start talking about like recording arts, what you are doing across the speaker is really the art form, right? Like, so really exploring what you can do across the speaker and how that can actually be transferred to another listener is kind of what you're trying to focus on. So with monitors and stuff, you want to get stuff that you can be confident that what you're doing across the speaker in your own studio can also be heard by others when they listen on their speakers, right? So I think that's kind of how I look at it. And the reality is for me, like I've done like a lot of testing, and I have open backs headphones as well. I have some Shure open backs that I like, and they I kind of A/B between those two to do different things. But I do a lot more monitoring in these because I can I like the way that the frequencies are represented. I think they're not too bright in these, so I think it allows me to do a lot more critical listening without having to turn things up high, because I know when these kind of start to pass a certain threshold of brightness, I know that I'm starting to get to a place that I want them. These I would say in general these headphones tend to be very dull, so they're not my favorite for just casual listening. But for mixing and whatnot, I like them. So I think wearing these helps me to be a bit more consistent, and it actually eliminates the room factor for me. So I think eliminating the room factor is kind of what we're talking about. It's like, do you need to get this treatment? I think if you can find ways to eliminate your room and be consistent, then you don't need to focus so much on like all this like treatment and stuff. And I don't really even think you need to focus on high-end speakers and all that. I think that's a different topic, but I think, I'm not trying to stomp on anyone that works in that domain, but I just think that, a lot of that stuff is more subjective. And of course, someone benefits from you buying like very expensive speakers for your setup and all that stuff. So, we can get into the capitalism part of it, but ultimately, I think if you can eliminate your room as a factor in terms of what you're hearing, headphones can be a better option for a lot of people that are working in home studios. So I actually use headphones a lot. I'm using the DT770s by Bear Dynamic. So and these are these are the 80 ohm ones. People ask that all the time. The if you buy the higher ohm ones, you need a higher powered amp to power it, because otherwise it'll sound low. People think that you need the higher ohm ones. The higher ohm ones actually are going to sound lower for like the average headphone output. It's just you're not getting the right amount of like voltage essentially from the headphone out. So you got basically ohm is resistance, right? So if you if we're talking about electricity, higher resistance means that you're going to require more voltage to get through that resistance essentially. So that's kind of how it works. So I got the 80 ohm one, so it's the lower resistance ones, because I think they make a 270 or something like that as well. You don't want that one, not for most cases. So yeah, I'm wearing the DT770s. I like them. Like I said, this is all preference, and you have to listen for a long time. But like I said, for me, my comparison is like, because I've done a number of mixes with Apple earbuds, for example, just to kind of compare and see where that puts me. And I think that for me, these translate well to the earbuds. and are less annoying for me to wear than the earbuds. So I think from that perspective, I can listen at really good levels without compromising how well it translates to the Apple earbud. And I use the earbud, the Apple, like the white Apple earbud as a reference, because I think that it's important to consider what the average consumer is listening to when you're mixing. I think, it's easy to like mix for like your own studio, where you might have you might have the Yamaha HS or the KRKs or some other monitors. Some of you guys got like higher end monitors. You guys got JBLs, Genelix. I have some Genelix here and whatnot. But I think it's important to mix for like lower end systems. Tariq Ali said, yeah, mixing in mono. Yeah, I have a mono Avatone. Like that's the speaker that you see right in the middle here. That's probably the most important one outside of the headphones. I will go to that one before I go to the Genelix, right? So I think the Genelix are good for like personal listening. They're very, very nice sounding speaker, but I don't think that they translate well to like the average consumer at all. I think it's like the antithesis of what the average consumer has. So I think anything I do here directly, I have to work backwards and like really like kind of decode what I did and reconceptualize it in the headphones and other places so that it translates. So I don't prefer to mix on there. I like to listen to it as like kind of like a final reference, just to see, I think it's good. The Genelix are great to like really show like the full spectrum of sound, and they can be good for identifying like very high frequency issues. But ultimately, you want something that really reflects really reflects the what the average consumer is listening to. Hey, what's going on, Hadassah? Thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well. Hope you nice and recovered. Appreciate you stopping by. Happy New Year to you. But yeah, like I think that if that answers your question, I know that was a long way to get to the answer, Calvin, but I hope that kind of answers the question. I think if you can find ways to eliminate the room as a factor, then it's more important to just focus on like the creative tools that help to inspire you. I think you don't need to spend a ton of money on getting your room and your speakers and all that kind of stuff in order, unless you were like, if you're doing mastering for a living, or for example, of course, like tighten the room up, tighten your monitoring up, get all of that together, right? But I think if you're not doing mastering, if you're more like a songwriter, producer, musician, composer, focus on the creative tools. Eliminate the room as much as you can. If you can eliminate the room, you are in better shape. You're not going to spend a ton of money on things that are going to get you like marginal results as far as like your creative output is concerned. I mean, it's good to say you can hear everything, but I am a pretty heavy proponent of headphones. And the other thing with headphones, I'll just mention just as a tip here, definitely like watch the levels with the headphones. And of course, you guys know, like you can't listen to music loud for long periods of time, but I would also say that even more so, check and make sure that the level that you're listening to is close to the output of like the common speaker that people will listen to. Because I think what tends to happen in high-end studios, or just music production studios in general, is that we start to get these high-end tools that have like louder output and just louder capabilities than the average consumer has. So if you turn up your volume pot on your audio interface, or on the headphone out to the max, for example, that may be way louder than what you could actually get from, say, your phone with the same headphones, for example. So I think it's important for you to calibrate the output of your audio interface so that it matches the maximum output that you can get on, say, your phone with the same headphones, because then that'll make sure that keeps you honest, because the reality is the louder that you listen to things, the brighter it becomes. So like, when you're trying to mix and balance frequencies, if you're listening too loud, you will actually create a duller mix, because essentially everything sounds bright. So you will kind of have a tendency to you'll have a tendency to choose duller sounds because everything sounds very clear and audible, versus if you are monitoring at lower levels, you will choose things that kind of cut more, because at lower levels you'll start to hear, you'll start to hear frequency differences a bit better, and you'll notice things that are not cutting through a mix. So I think calibrating your headphones is important, because if you've gone beyond the output of, say, your phone, for example, and you start like doing sounds and doing all this kind of stuff, you're gonna be picking stuff that doesn't necessarily translate to how the consumer is going to listen to it. So I think that's an important thing. So like I say, anytime you can avoid, like if you can remove the room, but also put yourself in a place to for the best success, and that means like aligning what you're listening to as closely to like what your end user is going to hear, the better results you're going to get. I think the further you kind of distance yourself from what your consumer is hearing, the more mismatched you are and out of sync you are. And I think, like I said, the canvas for a recording artist is the speaker at the end of the day. It's not the DAW, it's not the sampler. The canvas is the speaker. It, like, the art form for a recording artists is the how we are able to manipulate the speaker for the enjoyment of the listener, essentially. So that's my philosophy around it. I mean, people have other philosophies around that, but I think looking at the speaker as the canvas can help to make help you make different decisions around like what's important. Because I think with different sounds and creative tools, these are just other ways for us to manipulate the speaker more so, right? So you get a different keyboard because it helps you to manipulate the speaker in a way that you maybe couldn't do with other tools. Or you might get a different processor, like a different EQ or something. All these are things that help you to manipulate the speaker. Yeah, I'm glad that calibration tip helped. I think that's an important one that like is not talked about a lot, but I think as you start to calibrate things, it'll help you to just keep a more realistic perspective. Because I know like with the UAD stuff, for example, I'm using the Apollo. The headphone is very loud. So like even if I was like just halfway up, that's way louder than the phone can get. So, even halfway up, it might not be too loud for me and my ear sensitivity, but I think ultimately it's much louder than what the phone gets. So anything I would do at that level will be unrealistic. And I think that's why the calibration is important, because it keeps you in alignment with what's realistic for the listener to hear. Music's Code, what's going on with you? Thanks for dropping by. Appreciate you. Appreciate you dropping by. But yeah, I think, with the audio interface topic we were discussing earlier, it kind of all ties in, because I think that, one question is like converters or inputs, right? I say inputs over converters. Like, I don't think there's not a lot of like really bad converters on the market at this point. There are like maybe cheaper converters, but at this point in time, there's not like a ton of really bad converters. I think you would have to go out your way to get some really bad converters now. Like, there's stuff that's not as good, but ultimately, I think if you can eliminate paying for things that don't help you to write better music, I think you're better off. Like if you're getting the things that help you to write better music, um, that's gonna go a long way as far as like just your inspiration and creativity is concerned. I think the converters are great to help you to have a good reference for what you're hearing, but I would argue that your user, your listener in this case, doesn't have the converters, the high end converters, so they won't hear all those, sonic details. So ultimately, you want to make sure that whatever you do converts down to where the average listener can hear what you intended. I think converters are great to help you to understand what happens in the most high end environment. Um, so I would say from that perspective, say if you're mixing for film, for example, you want higher end converters because the medium that you're mixing for, or like the end user, is gonna usually listen in the theater. When things were like when everything was open, right? Like say let's pre-pandemic situation, right? Like everybody's going to the theaters watching movies, right? The theater represents a higher end listening environment. If you go, especially if you go to like one of the IMAX setups or whatever, usually they tend to be coupled with a pretty good surround sound speaker setup. So for that scenario, if you're mixing for that environment, yeah, you want to have a higher end converter because you what you're basically trying to make sure is that everything that you're doing translates well to that high end listening environment of the movie theater. If you're not doing like music for film, and your average listener is going to be say at a club or on headphones, then you need to think, okay, well, what kind of headphones are they going to be listening on? And that's why I am referencing the earbuds, because the earbuds are closer to a lot more of the average listener. You might, I would recommend, if anything, invest in more of the listening devices that the average person is listening on. Like if you know a lot of people that use Beats by Dre headphones, get the ones that they're listening on, so that you can reference it. I'm not saying you mix everything on the Beats by Dre, but listen to it and see, how the stuff that you're doing is translating to that canvas. Obviously a lot of people have the white earbuds, like what is it? The Air, I forgot the name of them now, but you know what I'm talking about. The wireless Apple earbuds and the wired ones. I still use the wired ones. I don't use the wireless ones, but AirPods. That's what I was thinking about. Like, get some though. Get some. So I would say, get what is close to like what your listener would have, and like monitor off of those and see how it transfers, because that's more important than having the high end converter with the high end barefoot monitors with the high end, all this other stuff that nobody has. Like I said, unless you're doing music for film or something like that, you're not gonna get you're not going to get so much output from that. I don't think that's going to help you to be better creatively, or create music that better translates to the medium that your average listener is going to be listening on. Music Coach says, what's your opinion of Motu audio interfaces? We covered that earlier. I was just talking about that, so I'm not going to go over that again. But ultimately, I do like Motu. I think they offer a good option for a good price point. Probably the most flexible and affordable option that has a large amount of I/O and solid drivers. So that's my opinion on Motu. I like them. They're not high end. They're not low end. They're kind of right in the middle, and I think they're priced well, and they typically have solid drivers. Calvin Rodriguez says, my average listener probably just got out of jail and ain't got no money. I hear that. So then you already know then, like, check and see what the what do people still get the Obama phones? Like I know people used to have the Obama phones back in the day. People still get the Obama phones. Like check and see how they sound on the Obama phone. You know, like how does my mix sound there? I think that's more important than like the high end speaker. Like, you know, if your average listener is gonna have the Obama phone and he want to just listen to it on that phone, listen to your music, like, oh, this is jam. Okay, cool. Make sure it works there. I think that's more important than like this heavy investment in like treatment and all this other stuff, right? Like you can buy different equipment that helps you to avoid the room. So yeah, that's my suggestion there. How long we been doing this? I'll probably stay on a little bit longer, unless y'all, you know, unless y'all want to talk about some other stuff. You know what I'm saying? But I really wanted to just kind of solve or at least answer this question about the audio interfaces that comes up all the time. I think that for me, this audio interface question is it's a big one, but it's an important one because I think if you choose the right audio interface, it will give you a lot of options to continue to be creative. Because like I said, you know, anything in my studio can be routed to any of the destinations that I see fit in my studio. And I think that's an important thing. Like, you know, I was showing earlier, like, you know, I can route stuff easily from, say, my Roland XV5050. We took it to the mixer, then we took it to the Force. We took it through the EQs that I have here. Let's see, if I want to record something to, say, my S3000, for example, I'll switch to the UAD console so we can kind of see that. Like, and let me get a different project so I don't mess this up. We just kind of explore a little bit, just a little bit longer. Discard, boom. You said you still can't get your iPad to record into your dog. Damn, okay, we gotta fix that. We gotta fix that. That's not good. But I think we could talk about that too. So here's an example. Like, let me see. I got some really like clean drums that I recorded from, like, I recorded with my own microphones and stuff. So okay, so I got those. Now I can send, yeah, these are all like drums that I recorded. So I can send these out of let me see. I will send these from the UAD. And so the way I got this set up is like basically the Maschine and also Logic actually output their main outputs on the virtual channels. So that means I can control them on the UAD console. So you see like the output of Maschine actually coming here, right? So if I want to now, I can send this output to output 5 and 6, which is my that's my mixer. And then from there, right now you don't hear anything because I don't have it set up yet, but that sound right there is the sound of my S3000. That's like the default like test tone out the S3000, and you see it coming through the mixer there. So what I'll do is I'll set up a routing now where I'll set the output of, let's see, this is coming from, okay, that's coming 1 and 2. So I'll set an output so that it goes into the S3000. And then from here, let's see here, on the S3000, if I go to samples and then record, and then let's go left input mono, and then I'm gonna go, now you're hearing the S3000. That's now going into the S3000. So now if I want to arm it, like say I want to just capture that kick and take it to the S3000, I'll arm it, got the kick in there. Now it's in the S3000, so I can trigger it off the S3000. So now that kick has gone through the S3000. And then if I want to record that back into, say, Maschine, I can just go into Maschine here. It's going through the UAD interface. Let's pull up Maschine real quick so you can kind of see that. And then I'm going to switch the input to, let's do mono. I don't need a stereo kick, actually, even though I called it stereo. But I think it's 3. Yeah, so boom. I'm going to capture it mono. So then we'll say start. And then, boom, capture it there. So now I got this kick that I just captured from the S3000. And let me route this audio back to the monitor so we can hear it again. So now that's the sound of the kick that I just caught. So I just recorded it from it. So I took a sound that was in Maschine, sent it to my mixer. The mixer routed it to the S3000. I captured it in the S3000. So it's still there in the S3000, but then I sent the output of the S3000 back to Maschine. So if I wanted to, process things using the S3000, I could do so, so that kind of flexibility is super helpful for me. It just provides me with a whole lot of like creative possibilities. My S3000 is also MIDI'd to it's MIDI'd to my Maschine. So let me see here. Like if I wanted to, I think it's on. Yeah, there it is right there actually. So it's actually on the same channel as the 5050 right now. But so now I'm triggering the S3000 from the Maschine just via MIDI now. So I can, if I want to program something and run it as MIDI, I could do so. So, for example, let's see here. I can 2, 3, 4. So I got that. I'm gonna record just a loop with the S3000 via MIDI right now. So, and I don't have the envelope right on that one right now, but I think you'll get the point. Let's see. No, let's go back to that. Edit 1. I'm getting creative now, so hold on one second. We'll flow with it. We'll just be creative for a second. So like, for example, now, I'm not going to try to do too much with that, but if I wanted to record that now, I can record that. Like it's MIDI right now on Maschine, as you can see. But if I want to record that audio from the S3000, what I would do is put it on like a different sound. So let's go sound number 2 on the Maschine, and then I'm going to go to sampling. And you see the audio signal at the bottom here. That's coming from the S3000. So if I wanted to capture it, I would capture it at this point because it's an audio sequence now. I would capture it as a loop. So on the Maschine, I would turn it to like loop instead of like detect, and then I'll put it on. Let's say 2 bars. Let's say 4 bars actually. I like to capture a little bit more usually than the original recording, just to make sure that I capture more as opposed to capturing less. Sometimes audio latency and other things could snip a sound inadvertently. So now that I got this on sound 2, I'm gonna put it on. Let's see, it's on loop right now. So if I hit start and then I'm gonna restart it, it will start recording the audio from the S3000. So you see it's recording now. So it'll stop recording after 4 bars. So now it's there. So I will mute the original. Let's see, boom. Oh, I messed that up. redo. I messed that up. Bonehead, messed that up. Redo. Let's do that again. Let's do that again. I messed that up. So, boom. So it's recording. There he is. So then I will mute the original, and now that's just the loop in Maschine, right? So then now that it's audio and Maschine, I could do whatever I want to it. If I want to continue to do some additional sound shaping on it, I can, or whatever. You know, I can go. Let's see here. You know, if I want to EQ it, or you know, add some additional frequencies to it. So you can start to like see why this would be a more flexible setup, because you can start to really dig into the sound and like move it to different places and start to do things that, you know, you couldn't do directly just in the Maschine by itself, for example. So, you know, and then you can keep it moving and just, you know, keep adding to this. Down. I'm gonna just record that as like a loop real quick. Just just something to get the idea going. So let's record that as a loop real quick. Let me do that again. Hey. Okay, there we go. Okay. There we go. is. Oh, like that. Like a sus chord. Yeah, let's do that. A sus chord. There we go. Here go the MIDI stuff. Let's see how we get this MIDI stuff. My MIDI cats know how frustrating that can be. Okay, we're gonna have to re-record that MIDI part. Let's see if I can fix it here. Hate that. Let's fix it here. There he is. It's that sustain pedal stuff, you know. Let me see what kind of rolls do I really want. That's kind of like. Let's see, do I like a tremolo on it though? I want a stereo. Clear up that kick. Alright, so we're gonna get some quick percussion going. We'll just take some stuff from the multi real quick. Take I've been using like Cord Gadget for years, right? And like I really like Cord Gadget just because it just remind me of the old sound modules, I think. So I use a lot of the Cord Gadget sound modules on the computer just because like I don't always want to be on the iPad for everything, and this stuff kind of make it easier. Like if I got an idea and I just want to add this stuff real quick, I'll just go here. sounds from the motif real Let's go more organic That's a XV5050 sound real quick. Let me record it. Just because it's a cool layer, but I think it's going to start acting up. Because it might have some type of modulation. I don't feel like dealing with it. So let's go loop, 8 bars, and let's get it on source. Let's do stereo for that one. That as a loop real quick. It's good to save now, at least. We got something. Let's save real quick before I make a mistake and get angry. Good time to save. Y'all, man, y'all trying to get me caught slipping. None of y'all said save. I see y'all. Nah, I appreciate y'all hanging out. But yeah, man, always good to remind your boy to save if I'm in here on the stream especially. All right. We go. Actually, let's say that with samples. Yeah. Boom. right, somebody asked, how do I save the external settings XP5050 motif in this case? You know what? I used to do a lot of that back in the day. I don't do so much of that now. Like at best, what I'll do just for good measure is like I'll I already tracked it, so it's like I don't need to save the all those settings, but like I might save it as like, okay, this is PH 010 Digibel XV5050, right? Just so I remember that's what it was. Boom. Okay, so that's saved there. For the bass, same thing. Let's see. No, that's the kick. So the kick is program 23, bank U1, Mofo X4. All right. So that's as far as I need to go. Like all that program change, bank change stuff. I think that's more important like when you are on the hardware only. Like say if I was just on the MPC, right? And then I did all of this stuff and it was all hardware and I hadn't tracked it out yet, then yeah, I would need to save all this stuff just because maybe I want to keep working, but I think I'm not going to be able to track it out tonight. But this is all in Maschine right now. So like because like that's from the analog synthesizer, but it's already in Maschine. All of it, yeah. Like everything is tracked out already, basically, because I'm using Maschine. And see, that's why I said I'm not like hardcore one way or the other, right? Because the way I'm using the hardware, but like I got this, like the shakers in Maschine. I just sampled it into Maschine, right? So then the sequence, the sequence is here on Maschine. Let me change there we go. I want that. See, and if I would have tracked it, or if I would have had, like, I couldn't even change the envelope on it like that. You see what I'm saying? So, like, that's why I would prefer it this way. And now I got more flexibility. So yeah, it's basically tracked now already. You know what I'm saying? It's in the Maschine. So if I need to just export audio, I can just do that real quick. So and then we just keep it pushing. Let's see, what else do I want to do with this? See if I like the reverb on that. Like that's from the motif, right? If I just want to take that and just grab that real quick, we'll just put it on a different track here, right? Let's see. Yeah, let's just grab that and just add it as a loop real quick. It's just real quick, so we just tracking as we go, you know what I'm saying? So like all that whole like bank change and all that stuff, it's just like that's old school for me. Like I have no reason to do anything like that now. If I could just capture it like this in real time, it's in there now. It's in the motif. I mean, it's in the machine now. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of ways you can manage this. At this point, it's so many ways you can manage it. It's like, whatever makes the most sense for you. I'm probably not going to come back and do a lot to this anyhow. So out. Let's just get it done. Let's just get it done. Actually, let me see if I can find something on the force as far as leads are concerned. I got the force MIDI'd up too. Um, I think it's on. What channel is it on? It is on. Let's see here. Um, let's mute him. Let's go. Force. It's on channel 16. All right. And then. Let's go. Let's go Odyssey. And then I'm gonna record that. Like that's on there. I'm gonna record it. Just get it routed correctly. From there. Oh, that. Why is it not doing that again? Just recorded as we go. Just recording the audio track from the Force, using the Force Art Odyssey joint in the Force. Just because I can, you know what I'm saying? You might as well use the technology. It's in here now. Audio, you see it? All right. I'm gonna stop right there for now. So I can have some perspective, because I know I'll keep going crazy, but I think it's a good foundation. Let's see. You know, No, my CPU is pretty good right now. Let's yeah, that was it's handling it. Show the it's running. You know what I'm saying? Like I know my limits. I know I can't you know, if I try to pull up another VST right now, because I already had a whole bunch of stuff loaded, so I have to get rid of something to load it up. I know that for sure. But I think after you know, once you know your stuff, like you know not to play around. That's why I stuck with a lot of hardware sounds on this. Let me see if I can pull up a sample tank sound or something. Let me see here. Sample tank got some cool sounds. Like I know we don't talk about sample tank a lot, but it's got some stuff in there. I mess with it. Let me see. Let me try this one. See if I want it. And that's a slow load, but it's all good. I'm patient. yeah, just a little something. I probably would I should resample it because I'm using it like that. No point of honestly. Really no point of using it like that. Let's detect and then let's go. Let's solo that. Just keep it simple. That's what I just like to keep it simple, bro. That's it. That's all I need. So now it's a sample, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm gonna free this up. I don't need to use it like that. Let's I'm gonna stick there. I'm gonna stick there. That was just a little extra sauce to put on it. But yeah, man. Appreciate y'all hanging out for a little bit. I didn't expect to make no beat, but you know sometimes it just works out like that. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this stream. I'm gonna go chill out for a little bit. You know, it's a long day at work, and then I kind of felt inspired to just get on and talk to the family here. But I appreciate y'all checking this stream out and you know, listening to me struggle with the setup for a little bit, trying to get it right. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoy this. And if y'all enjoy like this kind of stream, like this format, let me know. I mean, you know, I'm sitting just a older dude making some old school type beats, you know what I'm saying? But you know, hopefully you guys enjoy the process and some of the information that I'm providing. And if you'd like me to keep doing this, yeah, let me know. Also, I'm thinking about getting a Discord together. If y'all would be interested in joining a Discord, I've kind of built it somewhat out. True Sound Creators Discord. If y'all are interested, let me know. I will get that to you guys on the next session, and we can start to talk and communicate, because I think Discord is a nice place to keep the conversation going. But yeah, let me know if y'all like the stream. If y'all like the stream, please hit the like button on this. Please make sure I look like I don't have no likes on this. I don't know. Hit the like button if you like this stream. I appreciate y'all for joining once again. I'm a rock out the track for a few bars, and then well, let me do this real quick. Since we here, I can do a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Since we're here, I'm gonna just add a little quick little sequence on it, just so we can do something real quick. You know, this, like I said, this is why I like to use all the tools, because you know, if I was doing this on the MPC or something, it would just be like, dude, yeah. It would just take a long time. Not to say that, you know, I don't like the MPC, but it's definitely just faster to do stuff here. So let me do some housekeeping. Y'all can watch me do the housekeeping on this. Let's see. All right, so yeah, we got a little bit of a sequence going real quick. Yeah, man. We'll do this again. I appreciate y'all joining me. I'm gonna call it a night for the night, and we'll get back to it on another day. But yeah, man, hit me up, and I'll get that Discord running so we can um, keep the conversation going. So I appreciate y'all, and until next time, I want to tell y'all peace and God bless, and yeah, let's get it in. All right, y'all.